last class we discussed the general expressions for torque. Today we will pursue that concept to obtain expressions for torque in different machines. To recap, we had in the last class identified that all machines will have MMFs created by stator and rotor excitation, and the resultant of this will be the one which will provide a net MMF in the air gap. In other words, we said that each machine, if you excite the stator, which will produce a stator MMF. Okay? That is, we take a stator which carries conductors, which carry currents, and we say that we will have an MMF which, let us say, is centered around a point, call it as with a peak value of Fs. Let us freeze at an instant. So the idea is that by exciting this, I have created an Fs of this, means that it is sinusoidally distributed over the periphery with the peak value here of magnitude Fs and minus peak value here. Okay. Now that means this Fs italic is at any position theta in the air gap, okay, but its peak value is Fs. Next we say, similarly a rotor, if you excite the rotor, it will have at any position Fr theta and with a peak value Fr. So we can say that if you excite the rotor, let us draw the rotor something like this, and you excite the rotor, and it will give rise to some other MMF Fr. Fr is now the peak of that MMF, whereas at any position here, any position theta, maybe you will find some magnitude of Fs and also some magnitude of Fr at any position theta, okay, and all positions in the air gap, that this is the rotor and this is the stator. Okay. At every position in the air gap, we now see an MMF, and the angle between them we will call it as delta SR, angle between Fs and Fr. Okay. Now we have seen that the resultant of this we call it as FSR, which is the vector sum of these two. So the sum of this might be somewhere around here, maybe FSR, and we have identified that angle between Fs FSR we call it as delta S, and angle between Fr FSR we call it as delta R. Okay, this we have done earlier. So we have just said that these are the three MMFs, and now we assume all the MMFs in the air gap are assumed sinusoidal in space. This is one of the major assumptions we make. We believe that there are no harmonics produced by the MMFs. That means only fundamentals are considered. These three above MMFs will be in space sinusoidal. Now we have identified delta S as the angle between Fs FSR. So we have here Fs FSR, we call that angle as delta S, and delta R is the angle between FR FSR, that is rotor MMF and resultant, we call that as delta R, that is FR FSR, and lastly we say delta SR is the angle between FS FR. So we have 3 MMFs where these angles are defined as indicated. That means we have FSR between FS FR, delta SR between FS FR, delta S between FS FSR, delta R between FR FSR. Okay, this we have already done earlier. Okay. Now, next what we did was we tried to identify energy density in the air gap. Now there is a net MMF in the air gap at every position in space, and that MMF is going to produce a flux density in that point, and we want to know what is the energy at that point. That means if you say any position, there is an FSR here and there is also a BSR here at any position in the air gap. Okay. So that that will go on varying at theta, it will have different quantities in the air gap, but we know that at that point there is an energy density W field is energy density is whatever be at that point divided by twice mu naught. That is the energy density or the energy, magnetic energy per unit volume at that point. Okay, and that way that energy density go on changing in the air gap for different points. Okay, so we say that this is at any point theta, we call it as B square by 2 theta is the energy density. Okay, so we have this FSR causes BSR, that is the peak of resultant flux density. What is BSR? It is the peak of the resultant flux density that will be aligned with FSR. Now, at any point in the air gap, we say energy density at any point in the air gap is given by small WF B square by 2 mu naught. That is what we have seen, where B is the net flux density at that point theta. Okay. Now, with sinusoidal wave, we know that it is sinusoidal, B is varying sinusoidally with theta, B square will also vary sinusoidally with theta but double frequency with an average value of BSR square by 2. So we say with sinusoidal wave with peak BSR, average energy density will be, this will be BS square by 2 into the same constant a half mu naught. Okay. This is the average energy density, average energy density in the air gap. That means if I take the whole air gap here, so we have what is the average energy density here in the air gap. It is like a package, a small cylindrical package, it has an average energy density. Okay. Next, with the same logic, we can easily find out what is the total energy. We have seen average energy in the air gap. When we know average energy in the air gap, then total energy is that average energy density into the total volume of the air gap. So we say total energy in the air gap will be WF is that average energy density into volume of the air gap. Okay, this is what we have come to this. So we know volume of the air gap, that we know that energy density is nothing but Bs square by 2 into 1 by 2 mu naught, which we have already obtained, and volume of the air gap is pi d Lg, where d is the average air gap diameter and L is the length perpendicular to the surface and G is the gap length. That means if I go back here, so this will be d mean and this will be G, and somewhere at this L will be perpendicular to the paper. Okay, that will extend the length of the machine. L will be the length of the machine, D is the dia at the air gap, and G is the length of the gap. So we know this is the volume. It is very, we are doing very simple geometrical things. Okay. Now that we substitute. Now B, we have a relation between B and G, B and F. What is B and F is? What is the relation between B and F? Mu naught F by G is B, right? So we can write it as a into mu naught by G. B square will be mu naught square by G square into F square. So we multiply that in terms of F square. You simplify this, you have mu naught pi dl by 4G into FSR square. This is the expression that you will get for the stored energy in terms of the net MMF, because after all it is, we are not concerned now with FSFR but only with FSR resultant which is available in the air gap. So we have taken FSR square, and then that will be, but we also know that FSR square is a result of FS and FR, right. So we have seen that it is, if you say Fs and Fr and FSR, we have already identified that FSR square is nothing but Fs square plus Fr square plus twice FSFR cos angle between the two, that is this angle delta SR. This again is a geometrical simplification. FSR square is the sum of these two. So we substitute that like this. So this is the, now we get a final expression for the energy stored, right. Now the what depends upon energy stored, therefore at any point depends upon the magnitude Fs, Fr and angle between them. Next, from the basic energy conversion principles, we have an expression for torque as a space derivative of the stored energy. Okay. So we have this delta by delta of that angle of that stored energy into, because this is a mechanical derivative, so we multiply, since these are all in terms of electrical, this is electrical quantity, we multiply by P by 2. Okay. It is P by 2 times this, because this much is the electrical torque per pole pair. Okay. So we get a simplified version of the torque expression by taking a derivative of the stored energy, because Fs square Fr square derivative will become 0. It is only minus twice Fs Fr into sin delta Sr. Okay. Now, so this will be an expression for torque minus mu naught pi P dl by 4G into Fs Fr sin delta Sr. Okay. And this minus we have interpreted as it acts in such a direction as to decrease delta Sr. That means it will try to align, FSFR will try to align itself with this. Okay. And then we also said there are other two possible variants of these expressions. So we have the three general expression for torque, that is a constant which is a design constant mu naught pi P dl by 4G into Fs FSR sin delta S, Fr FSR sin delta R and FSFR sin delta SR. So it is left to you which is the most appropriate formula to use. So now each machine, depending upon what is your excitation system, we can decide, right. Now we know that this is an expression for torque. We want in all machines the torque to become non-zero. You don't want a zero torque, because then there is zero power. Now how to get that zero torque? Now this is a constant, you have nothing to do about this. Now to get a non-zero torque, you must ensure that Fs Fr are non-zero. Okay. So you need to have a stator MMF non-zero, rotor MMF non-zero, and angle between them also should be non-zero. Okay, this is the condition. That means you must have a fixed delta, fixed non-zero delta. So the condition for torque development we can now obtain as follows. This is what we are looking at. Condition for non-zero torque is FSFR FSR must be non-zero. This is one condition. Then delta SR, delta SR, delta R, they must be non-zero, right? Okay, this is the second condition for torque development, right? Then means air gap fields, that is we now have these three fields, must be in synchronism with each other with zero relative speed. What do you mean synchronism is? They are all frozen at every instant of time. So these are the conditions that must be met to produce a torque in any machine. So we come to, this is a very important concept, that you need to have non-zero Fs, non-zero Fr, and non-zero angle between them, and that angle must be fixed. Delta SR must not be changing with time. If it changes with time, you will have a torque changing with time, so you may not get a non-zero average torque. Therefore, this is what we had to see. Means we must, with this expression, we should go ahead now to see what happens in each particular machine. Before we do that, we will also have to understand one important concept, that is, when once you produce an Fs, here suppose we say this is producing an Fs stator, okay. Now this Fs or Bs, what will it result in? When I say this is aligned in this way, means it is producing a flux path like this. It is centered on, that means I have placed a magnet like this, right, which means that a magnet is placed in such that axis with its strength which gives you Fs and Bs. Means how do I write that magnet, right? Because this, since it is a very fundamental concept, we thought we should revise this. So we can say that stator is creating some type of a magnet, though it is supposed to be cylindrical. I just make for protruding it. So this magnet will produce an Fs like this. Means which is your north pole? This one, right? So our pole is, this is the north pole of the stator, this is the south pole of the stator. Is it clear? So because the flux lines are all going like this. Okay. Now let us take the rotor. We said that rotor is, when you excite the rotor, it is some other angle Fr is there, okay. Now you assume that rotor is now excited, stator is dead, stator is not excited, but Fr is here. So Fr is here, means the flux lines here, if it is in this direction, the flux lines will go like this and flux lines will go like this, okay. Now which has become the north pole and south pole here? Because now the rotor surface is magnetized, stator surface is not magnetized because stator is not excited. So we have, that means half of this surface assumes one pole and other half assumes another pole. Let us say, so half of it one, that means I have placed a magnet like this, which will give you a MMF FR and the B of BR, but it is placed like this. So now we must be clear which is your north pole, which is the south pole. Which is the north pole here at this surface? So this is the north pole, right? Because the flux is now leaving this. So north pole of the rotor is here and south pole of the rotor is here, this portion. So if I say ABC, so ABC forms south pole, and let us say this is D, CDA forms north pole. Well, this concept is very important, because otherwise you may get confused about, as if there are two poles kept like this. You can say this is like this. You assume that this will be north, this will be north, which will be a fallacy. Okay. So even though they produce MMF in this direction, stator and rotor get magnetized in a opposite manner. So we have seen here, earlier this was north, this was south, and here this is north, this is south. So in other words, I create in this, if I say this is the FR, so I create a magnet something like this. So where we have said this will be the north of this rotor, this will be the south of the rotor. Okay, is it clear? How that MMFs will create poles in the respective members. So this will be the poles in the stator, poles in the rotor. Now you will notice that there is unlike poles here. Now from your basic laws of physics you already know that the unlike poles will attract. Therefore this will get attracted this way. So torque will be, which direction the torque will be, clockwise or anti-clockwise? So the torque is anti-clockwise. In a way to attract the rotor towards the stator axis, because they form unlike poles, right? So the stator rotor form unlike poles, so the tendency of the rotor should be to align with the stator under this condition. So that will be the angle delta SR will get reduced by the influence of the torque, which is acting counterclockwise. Okay. Now with this clarification we can now go the torque in different machines. Okay. So we have to see, we have got the general expression for torque, and let us see which one to use for which of the machine. Again that requires a little knowledge of the machine and also a distinction of what to use. Okay. In DC machine we want to know the torque. What happens in a DC machine? DC machine generally you find a typically maybe the poles which will produce let us say if this is north, this is south, let us say this is your Fs. Normally DC machine have stator which is a magnetized magnets, electromagnets with the like this. Now the rotor is an armature, we know, generally we have observed this will produce Fr. This is what you find in the, that means when you have the armature conductors carrying current, it is always Fr irrespective of the rotation, because the commutator and brushes will ensure that the rotor axis is always at quadrature to the field axis, and this angle is FSR. Delta SR. So delta SR is always equal to 90 degrees. That means it is Fs which will give you the flux, and the Fr which will be proportional to the current carried by the armature winding. So armature current will produce the armature MMF, and the field or the flux per pole is the one which will decide Fs. Okay. So we have one magnet, stator magnet, and one magnet, the rotor magnet, always at 90 degrees. It is always at 90 degrees. Okay. That is one of the great advantage of the DC machine. You know that when the delta is 90 degrees, you get maximum power or maximum torque, right. In other angles, which is you will get, you are not able to get that much power. That means you are underutilizing the machine. Okay. Therefore, we have to we can now, what is our common sense should tell us, our torque expression should now be in terms of the flux and in terms of the current, right. That should be important, because that is what you are controlling, that is what you are, the flux per pole and the current in the armature. Okay. So FSFR, we use the formula FSFR into sin delta SR. Here in this case sin delta SR is always 1. So that is what you know. So this information you already have. Okay. So the expression for torque, if you follow that, will be this, and this is being 1. But the Fs, that is stator MMF, is nothing but G by mu naught into Bs, that you know, because Bs Fs are related, because Bs is equal to mu naught F by G or G by mu naught into Fs, and this Bs is also equal to, what is the Bs? Bs is the peak of the stator flux density, will be equal to total flux per pole divided by the area of the pole, pi dl by P, into pi by 2, because this will give you the average B, because this B is the peak B. Peak of B is nothing but pi by 2 times average B. This is the average B within this bracket. Okay. Now this is one relation you have, Bs is equal to 5 by pi dl by P multiplied by pi by 2. Okay. And then, so that means it will simplify like this, sorry. Fs is, this simplifies to, these two together will be Gp phi over 2 mu naught dl. Fs, that is the peak of the stator MMF, will be given by Gp phi is the flux per pole divided by 2 mu naught dl. You know that this will be directly proportional to flux per pole, right. And we have derived this expression Fr, that is the armature MMF peak, is given by 8 by pi square into Za by 2p into Ia by A. We derived it long time ago when we were identifying the air gap MMF produced by different type of excitations. So this is an expression, you can go back in your notes and see that 8 by pi square Za by 2p into Ia by A. That means the rotor MMF is therefore only depend upon the armature current Ia. Armature current is the current going through the brushes. Okay, they are fixed. So you have this, you now have an expression for Fs and Fr in the first expression for torque, and we have already seen sin delta SR is 1. Delta SR is 1. Okay. So from these expressions 1, 2, 3 and 4, we get this torque expression will be, you can simplify this and check, Pza by 2 pi a into phi into Ia. So this we get a very useful expression, manageable expression for torque in a DC machine, which is basically given by a constant Pza by 2 pi a. We can call this a constant Ka. Ka is a constant into phi into Ia. And this constant, you know, is the same as the voltage constant, Pza by 2 pi a. Why is it constant? Because these are all design parameters. Your poles in a machine are fixed. Za is the armature conductors occupying the peripheral armature is fixed, and pi is of course 2 pi is of course the constant, and A is the number of parallel paths through which the armature windings are wound. So these are all design constants. So you can therefore get an expression for torque like this. Right? We now have from the basic equation we get the expression for torque. Now from this torque expression what do we conclude? After all we get an expression, we conclude that torque is related to what? Armature current, torque related to flux per pole. These two are important things that we see. It is, if you maintain the flux per pole, torque is always proportional to armature current. Okay. Now that is what we conclude. The nature of torque in a DC machine. What is the nature of torque? Nature of torque in a DC machine, that torque is proportional to armature current, torque is proportional to flux per pole. Okay. That means at constant flux, if you make the flux constant, torque change is affected by instant change in current. You know a motor, what is the purpose of the motor? Is to provide a torque to an external load. So suddenly a load changes. What will happen? At the same instant the current must increase, right? Therefore, this is what is known as a quick dynamic response. The DC motor has a very quick dynamic response because it is capable of changing instantly the current in relation to the flux, in relation to the external torque. So if the torque doubles, for example, current will double instantly. It should not happen that torque doubles and maybe current doubles after some time, because that time gap is likely to create disturbance in the dynamics of the system. Okay. Therefore, DC machine is therefore known to be a quick acting machine. That is why they are used wherever we have a quick acting, like robos, in computers, in tape recorders. Because there in tape recorder, for example, the torque on the motor may go on changing depending upon the diameter of the tape in which it is wound, because that will go on changing. When it is full, it will be, tape is at one tension, and maybe it's small, it is another tension. So there are several loads, or if you are doing textiles and paper and so on. Therefore, wherever you require a quick response, you use a DC machine. And that is another one noble quality it has, very novel one, is commutator is the one which ensures fixed angle between the two MMFs. In no other machine that is possible. It is not possible to have a fixed MMF, a fixed angle between the two MMFs. That is only possible in DC machine. So you must understand what is the advantages and limitations of each machine. So the DC machine has this advantage, that the torque changes can be affected instantly because of this quality it has of no change in delta. Because if the delta was also changing, then you had problem. Okay, then your current change will not be instantaneous. So this is one of the very linear way in which you can model the machine as a part of a control system, and then you can use it for several such applications. Okay. Next, let us look at what happens in the next machine, the synchronous machine. Okay. Torque in the synchronous machine. Now in a synchronous machine, unlike a DC machine, it is connected to a three-phase AC source. Okay. So if you draw a schematic, for example, of a synchronous machine, it is connected to a source, generally feeding to a source as a generator, or taking power from the source as a motor. But this may have either a prime mover or a load, depending upon whether it is a motor or a generator. Okay. Now you are maintaining the speed constant, let us say omega synchronous is constant. This is one of the constraints you have, no change in speed, and then the power can go out as if it is a generator. So this will produce a torque. So power is expected to be, ideally neglecting losses, will be omega s into torque, isn't it? Because the torque is supplied by the prime mover if it is a generator, and our torque is taken to the load if it is a motor. And you have another independent control here, that is the field or the rotor. right. So you let us say assume that you want to have an expression of torque in terms of Vt, which is also fixed, and If, which is also, let us say, fixed. So I want to have an expression for torque in these two quantities here, unlike in the DC machine, right. Now Vt is given, Vt is due to the resultant flux, that is what you write at the terminals. So the Vt is due to phi SR. Phi SR provides you Vt, and what provides you phi SR is the net peak of the BSR. That is what gives you phi SR, that is the net flux per pole in the air gap. What is phi SR? Is the resultant flux per pole in the air gap, okay, and that is given by the resultant flux density which is rotating at synchronous speed in the air gap, and that is given by the resultant peak of FSR. So your source is FSR, right, and now if this is constant, this is constant, this is constant, and this is constant. So this is supposed to be constant, okay. Now what is this If you say is fixed, is again the R that is decided by the flux per pole, that phi R, because the rotor flux per pole, that is what is interrelated with If, because the If causes this incidentally. And this phi R is due to Br, let us say due to Fr, which is constant. So which formula you use here? You use a formula which involves Fr and Fsr, isn't it? Because these are the ones which are now specified quantities here, terminal voltage and this field or rotor, okay. Now let us with this logic we see that terminal voltage is constant, Vt is constant. At constant frequency, that means phi SR is constant, FSR is constant, these two are constants. Now let If is the field current which is fixed or a constant, that means Fr, rotor MMF, is constant. So we go by this logic that resultant flux is constant and rotor MMF is constant, resultant MMF is constant. Then we use this formula, T is equal to minus mu naught pi PdL by 4G into FSR Fr sin delta R. We use this, and then we know this is a constant, FSR is constant and Fr is constant, okay. We say they are all specified, they are constant, so we can write torque is equal to some constant into sin delta R, okay. Now what will be that what will be the unit of that constant? Will be, it is also a torque, right. Therefore that torque will be T max, that is the maximum torque that you will find is nothing but the constant K, which is the torque when delta R is 90 degrees. Now we are concerned with delta R, which is the resultant to rotor, okay. So we get a very useful expression. So this results in what is known torque delta characteristics. So we can write down that in a synchronous machine the torque will be varying with delta, okay. This is one important thing, and when this is delta R, and when delta R is 90 degrees, okay, this is the torque which is torque maximum, which is also equal to K. So we say torque is equal to K times sin delta R, okay. So we get, that means increase in torque, if your voltage is fixed and rotor current is fixed, how is it affected? It is affected by change in delta R. That means you have a position here, let us say torque is 0. Torque is 0 means resultant MMF and rotor MMF, they are like this, right. This is the torque is 0. Okay. Now, when once the torque to increase, so you after all there is a resultant MMF is just moving past and the rotor MMF is trying to follow in one case. That means if the that means extra torque is produced by the rotor trying to either lag behind in the motor or rotor trying to go ahead, right, and getting a maximum torque T K when delta is 90 degrees. So, if you say the blue one is the rotor MMF and this resultant MMF. Now, in the case of a generator, as soon as in a generator what you do is you put some more power through the prime mover. Maybe if it is an engine you put more fuel, if it is a steam turbine you put more steam, if it is a hydro turbine you put water, right. That is what you put more power that goes into the generator through the shaft. So, as soon as you put more power the rotor will try to go ahead instantly. So, delta changes. So, delta goes on changing up to 90 degrees where you get maximum torque and maximum power. When they are aligned no power is there. So, there is no power transmitted from generator, no torque is developed. So, otherwise the torque is developed like this. So, this is a physical concept you must understand, that what actually happens inside is as soon as you put more power there is a angle changes. Angle change will take place in one direction if it is motoring and opposite direction if it is generating. Okay. Now, this is the concept, and you can also write in terms of known quantities. Other torque equation is you have this expression you have. Now, the Vt, we have one more expression, Vt is 4.4 F into kWNSE into phi SR, that is the net flux per pole. Now, the E, that is the voltage due to rotor alone, that is when there is no current in the armature, only when the Fs is 0, when Fs is 0, when the armature currents are 0, then all the MMF is provided only by the field. So, that is E. So, this E is called a no load voltage or open circuit voltage, right. When once the generator is open circuited, this voltage is induced. This is when it is connected to the terminals. Okay. Now, this is 4.44 F into same kWNSE into phi R. What is phi R? Phi R is the flux produced only by rotor alone when the rotor is excited. Okay. And now we have, but we have a relation to F and phi already, Gp by phi into 2 mu naught dl. The MMF is related to flux per pole. When I say phi, you please note it is always flux per pole. Okay. And if you substitute this, so you have a big expression for torque which is this constant, and you substitute for FSFR. FSFR will be having, because F is proportional to phi. Okay. Therefore, I get these constants, that means Gp by 2 mu naught dl, okay, that will whole square because you have both Fs and FSR. So, you have an expression for torque as some constant into resultant flux per pole into rotor flux per pole into sin delta r. Sin delta r we are remaining as. So, FSR is proportional to phi SR, Fr proportional to phi R. So, you have this expression. Okay. But we know that phi SR and phi R, now what are they depend upon? They depend upon Vt and E. Phi SR is proportional to terminal voltage and phi R is proportional to no load voltage. Okay. No load voltage that is generated when Fs is 0. Okay. So, we have these two are substituted. Therefore, we can write down this as some constant, let us say Kt as a torque constant into Vt into E into sin delta R. Okay. So, this is called a torque constant. Okay. And or if you want to develop power developed by torque into speed. So, you have to multiply this by speed, that means you will have a Kp, I call it as a power constant. So, there is a power constant into Vt E sin delta R. Okay. So, why we call VTE? Because they are measurable quantities. Okay. Therefore, if you substitute all this and simplify this, we get a power constant as follows. So, the constant Kp will be Gp square by 8 mu naught dl into Kw and Sc square into F. This is a constant, and on what it depends? It depends only on the design parameters. You will see this whole thing, except for the frequency which may be externally controlled, all others are constant. Gap is constant, number of poles constant, mu naught constant, d, l, Kw and Sc. They are all design constants. Okay. Therefore, you find this is a constant. So, this constant depends upon design data and frequency. That is all it depends upon. Okay. Now, we will learn later an expression for power is also written as Vt E into sin delta divided by Xs, because power will have a unit of a voltage into current, isn't it? Because this has no unit. So, it has voltage into current, means if you have 2 voltage, there must be that has to be divided by a reactance, and this Xs is called a synchronous reactance. Now, if you say 3 VTE sin delta by Xs, now if I have the old expression, because we have defined P as equal to Kp VTE sin delta R, now we can, by comparison, we can find out what is this Xs. Xs will be reciprocal of Kp, isn't it? Xs will be 1 by Kp. Kp will have a unit of 1 by X or mho or Siemens. Now, Xs will be synchronous. So, you will get a very useful expression for synchronous reactance as 8 by 3 mu naught dl by Gp square into Kw and Sc square into F, right. And if you remove F, what will be this one? What will be unit of this? It will be an inductance. So, you can call this as a synchronous inductance, or you can say in a way inductance of attributable to the winding. Okay. Now, you will interestingly you will see that inductance will be normally proportional to square of turns, that you get it here, Kw and Sc square, and you will say that inductance will be proportional to D and L, and if you increase G, inductance will come down. For more number of poles, inductance will come down. Smaller number of poles, you will have that inductance of the coil will be more. So, this is how, if you want to have control the synchronous reactance, because performance of the machine has a bearing on this parameter called synchronous reactance. How do you control it? You can control it by proper design at the design stage, right. And this and of course, normally frequency is fixed for the machine. So, you can have the value of synchronous reactance. So, we have today seen the torque and power in the DC and synchronous machine. In the next class, we will take up induction machine.